average person sleeps, 7 to 8 hours, to say, roughly. So we're awake for about 16 hours of the day. Let's just say on average we're practicing it 13 hours a day, 7 days a week distraction. And then you wonder why you're so good at it. That's the law of practice. The law of practice is that we become good at whatever it is we practice. Whether it's positive or negative, it doesn't matter. If you practice something over and over and over again, you become really good at it. And that's why people are so good at distraction, because it's what they practice. And then people say things like, technology are great distractors, right? Smartphones. Oh, I have this thing so distracting, my smartphone. The internet. Are they distractors? I'd like to say no first, and then yes. But mostly no. Technology in itself is not a bad thing. It's actually a beautiful thing, as long as we're in charge of it. But if every time your iPhone beeps or makes a sound and you turn to it and you go, yes, master, how can I serve you today? Then you live in that world of distraction. It's training you to be distracted. But if you actually use technology, then technology is not a bad thing. So how do we become good at concentrating? We start by understanding the mind, right? All of us have a mind. It's the most powerful tool in the world. It built a smartphone, it's put machines that drive itself on Mars. So the first thing I learned when I went to the monastery was to learn how the mind works. Because once you know how the mind works, you can control it. And once you can control it, you can focus it. You can't focus or concentrate something you don't understand. We allow people and things around us to take awareness from one area of the mind to another all day long, from the time we wake up. And therefore, we become distracted. So to be concentrated is to be able to keep your awareness on one thing for an extended period of time. How do we practice this? We practice this by doing one thing at a time throughout the day. What's the best way to develop concentration? The best way to develop concentration is to bring that practice into our everyday life. When you're able to concentrate, you're able to focus all your energy into a single given point. Life is a manifestation of where your energy is flowing. And if you can't concentrate your energy, the things that you want to manifest in your life becomes very, very challenging. So learn to concentrate by doing one thing at a time. Bring this practice into everything that you do throughout the day. Make it a part of your life. Practice, practice, practice. Keep bringing awareness back and keep it focused on one thing at a time.
So let's see this beautiful purport that Prabhupada has put here. He describes here, one who is not Krishna conscious is subjected to material desires while contemplating the objects of the senses. See why? Because Krishna consciousness is the process of spiritualizing all the material things with spiritual energy. This is Krishna consciousness. So if you're not Krishna consciousness, then your mind is going to contemplate. You can't stop that. The mind is going to contemplate, and by nature it's going to force you, it's going to pull you down. Why? Because there's no spiritual energy there. If there's no spiritual energy, there's no satisfaction. And if there's no satisfaction, the result is anger. So you see how it works? Let's see describing it further. The senses require real engagement, and if they are not engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, they will certainly seek engagement in the service of materialism. The senses will pull and the mind will want to be satisfied. But by the nature of where you are engaging in material activity, by that nature, how do you feel satisfied? You can't. Because it's not imbued with spiritual energy yet. You need a conscious being to connect matter to spirit. Unless a conscious being is there, there's no connection. There is no yoga. The yoga is the connection between matter and spirit. So this is the definition of the Dhira. Remember very earlier on? The Dhira is one who understands. He studied matter, he studied spirit, he studied nature, he studied the soul, he studied the super soul. And he knows how to connect them all. This is it. So once one understands how to connect, then you don't give up that object, you just spiritualize it with spiritual energy. But that process is called Krishna consciousness. And unless one knows this, one will be hankering for satisfaction in the material world, but he'll never find it there. So he goes on. In the material world, everyone, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to say nothing of other demigods in the heavenly planets, is subjected to the influence of sense objects. So if you are within this material world, you cannot be aloof from sense objects. You have to act and interact with matter in some form of the other. So even great realized personalities like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, the fact that they are in this world means they have to interact with matter. And as soon as you do that, you have to know how it works. If you don't understand how to connect it to the spiritual platform, it's going to give you a karmic reaction, which is going to bind you. And this is why Krishna consciousness is different, because it's giving one a transcendental experience, an otherworldly experience right now in this physical form on the spiritual level. So he goes on. And the only method to get out of this puzzle or material existence is to become Krishna conscious. Lord Shiva was deep in meditation, but when Parvati agitated him for sense pleasure, he agreed to the proposal. And as a result, Kartigeya was born. So we know that traditionally Kartigeya or Muruga, or as it's called, the Kavadi time. This is dedicated to Lord Muruga or Kartigeya. So he was born due to Lord Shiva being in deep meditation. But Parvati wanted sense pleasure. So she agitated him. And once he broke his meditation, he obliged. And once he obliged, Kartigeya was born. So you can see even a deep person like Lord Shiva, a great personality, one of the greatest personalities. But even him at that level, he also, so just see who then can claim to be aloof from this? Nobody. But the devotee, Savai Mana Krishna Padaravindayo, Vaisamsi Vaikunta Gunanavanane, the devotee's mind is always absorbed in Krishna. And because of that pleasure, that satisfaction that is getting from that is giving him the param dristam nivartate, the higher taste. Vishaya vinivartante nirharascha dehinam rasovarja rasopyasya param dristam nivartate. He is experiencing the higher taste. Therefore, although the illusion of the material world is tempting, his connection is from Param Dristam, from the spiritual platform, from the connection with Krishna. So he continues here. So he continues by giving a comparison between Lord Shiva and how he was disturbed and what happens to the example of when a devotee is disturbed. So yesterday we heard of Dhruvasa Muni and Amrish Maharaj. So today we're hearing of Lord Shiva and Haridas Thakur. Let's read this one. When Haridas Thakur was a young devotee of the Lord, he was similarly alluded by the incarnation of Maya Devi. But Haridas easily passed the test because of his unalloyed devotion to Lord Krishna. As illustrated in the above mentioned verse of Sri Yamanuja Acharya, a sincere devotee of the Lord shuts all material sense enjoyment due to his higher taste for spiritual enjoyment in the association of the Lord. So you see that higher taste, this is where the devotee is connecting. So Haridas Thakur was tempted by Maya herself, not by the material energy, sense objects, the incarnation of the illusionary energy herself. She came to test him and he passed that test. He made her into a devotee. This is how powerful devotion is. So yesterday we heard the examples of Dhruvasa Muni and Amrish. Today we're hearing the examples of Lord Shiva and Haridas Thakur. So two examples in the past 2 days of yogis and devotees. That the yogis are doing it by determination and by their own strength and valor. But the devotees are doing it by yoga, by connection to the spiritual energy. Savai mana Krishna padaravindayo, by remembering Krishna, by enchanting the mind. When the mind becomes enchanted, then the enchantment of the material energy becomes less tasteful. That becomes more relishable. So how to know this? Well, experience it, try it, connect yourself genuinely through the bona fide system and see the result that one experiences. Otherwise, how is it possible that one can give up life? If you look at that one can give up one's life at such a young age. Prabhupada disciples, they were 18 and 20. Here in Mayapur today is Gaur Purnima. And His Holiness Jayapataka Maharaj, who is the resident Swami here, he took sannyas when he was 18, 20 years old, just a teenager. But up to now, he's still able to maintain his vows. How is that? Because he's connected on the spiritual platform. So we never know. There are many other examples of how Krishna gives strength to one when one is connected on the spiritual platform. I can tell you from my own personal life, I joined when I was 21. And from that age up to now, I'm still carrying on, trotting along, but carrying on our spiritual path and our spiritual quest. Why? Because yakshreya nistita bruhitan me, because there is a goal. And because I have a goal to my life, and because I'm striving for that goal, the inspiration from that is deeper than anything else that you can experience in this material world. So he goes on here. That is the secret of success. One who is not therefore in Krishna consciousness, however powerful he may be in controlling the senses by artificial repression, is sure ultimately to fail. For the slightest thought of sense pleasure will agitate him to gratify his desires. So just see what is the threshold of a devotee and what is the threshold of a yogi. That if one is connected on the spiritual platform, he is feeling and experiencing spiritual energy. And that is a completely different experience to anything out there in the material world. And therefore, when he's connected to that as a lifestyle, where every part of his life, just like we were hearing about Amrish Maharaj, he was walking to the temple, smelling the flowers, using his hands to serve in the temple. His whole lifestyle became one of devotional service, and in that way he developed a higher taste, an experience of life that nothing material can give you.
I do not believe that any of us have dreams that were not given to us for the purpose of accomplishing those particular dreams.
If you feel you have something to give, if you feel that your particular talent is worth developing, is worth caring for, then there's nothing you can't achieve.
So I applaud you for your dreaming, for your running toward your dream. I applaud you for believing in yourself, because that's what life is about. Stretching and challenging, looking for ways that you can begin to improve yourself. Not only is it possible for you to have your dream, but it's necessary. It's necessary that you go for what is yours in the universe. Logical, practical thinking says you can't do it today. But if you want to produce unreasonable results in your life, like living your dream and taking charge of your destiny, you've got to be an unreasonable person.
When you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is. Your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much. That's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact. Everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again.
If it's hard, why do people do it? Why do they do it? People who climb mountains. Why would a Nelson Mandela give up 26 years of his life? Why do people do that? Even though it's hard, it's worth it. It's worth it. The people who go after their stuff, what makes it worth it? It's got to be your passion. You got to love it. It's got to be what you are supposed to do. You do what it is you're supposed to. You're supposed to build something. You're supposed to create something. I don't know how to do it. Learn. Let me share something with you. History is being read, but it's also being written by people with imagination. Don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop running toward your dream.
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us.